I'm Nidhi, and I lead the regional marketing at AppsFlyer for UK and Turkey, which basically means that I live in calendar, campaigns, and coffee. I'm genuinely thrilled to be here today. This is my very first time in this wide world of apps, and it's very, very thrilling to see everybody so snug and tight, so appreciate that. Now, as much as I might be new to the industry, I'm no stranger to growth. And a little bit peak about me is that, like many of you, I've also had to constantly redefine what that even means. So as much as I started out as an architect, landed up in tech marketing, and then moved to London, and along the way, ended up convincing my very, very Indian parents that my job is essentially for people to click things. And then I was asked if I could fix the Wi-Fi. But honestly, I think that's where we all kind of resonate when we speak about growth. That is the topic of the day with the wonderful panelists that I have here. It is no longer about sparkle, but it's about that specific strategy that we're all going to be talking about. Back in 2020, when installs were everything, we chased them like avocado on toast, which is enthusiastically no real sense of ROI. But I think in this era with 2025, growth has also grown up. As I was walking my way to the brewery, I opened about 4 or 5 apps this morning, and not one brought me joy. And it hit me because I feel that perhaps growth isn't about being downloaded. It's about being kept, it's about being used, it's about being loved. And that's what this conversation is going to be all about. And today I get to do what I love most, ask great people smart questions and where the conversation kind of takes us. So let's meet a panel, 4 brilliant minds who live and breathe app growth. I've asked each one of them to kick off with a very, very scientific, totally non-judged question. We will start off with Greg in a short while. What was the first app that you opened this morning? And yes, if it was WhatsApp, we expect honesty, but we might judge you a little bit. So we have Greg Turtle. He leads growth at one of the most innovative location tech companies out there, where growth isn't just performance, but it's precision at what 3 words. So Greg, bring us in. What got tapped first on your phone today?
Yeah, so for me, actually, it's an app called Family. Not many of you will have heard of it, probably. It's an app which nurseries partner with to communicate with the parents of the children that go to the nursery. I needed to talk to the key worker of my son this morning.
See, that's the energy we need this morning. Strong start, Greg. We love that. We love that. So with something as, straight diving into the question, with something as innovative as what 3 words is all about, how do you define growth? And what really keeps you up at night when it comes to growth?
Sure. I think first, a quick intro into what 3 words, if that's okay. We're, just in case people aren't familiar, hopefully a lot of you are, we're a UK-based tech company. Our mission is to make a new global addressing standard that's fit for the 21st century. What that means in practice is we've broken the world down into 3 meter by 3 meter squares. So where we're sat here, we'll have its own 3-word address for this 3 meter square. It could be table, banana, spoon. The 3-word address for you sat over there would be something completely different. So whilst this building has one traditional street address, it would have hundreds of unique 3-word addresses within it that makes it easy for people to meet up precisely rather than kind of hunting around for each other. What that gives users is a lot of different use cases. We're used by logistics companies like DHL, DPD to deliver parcels and letters and things. We're famously used by the emergency services. So if you fall over and hurt yourself in Epping Forest, near where I live, call 999. Give them your 3-word address. They'll know what you're talking about and they'll come and find you more accurately. We're using cars. People like Jaguar Land Rover build us into their sat-navs. And we're also aware that we're quite popular at festivals. People stumbling home from a heavy night out at Glastonbury trying to find their tent. 1 in 3 revelers at Glastonbury last year used what 3 words, which is a figure we're very proud of. But yeah, so what does it mean for us in terms of growth? I think that was the question, right? It's a fair question for us because we don't monetize our users directly. We don't charge them to use the app, and we don't even carry ads, actually. Obviously, as a business, commercially, we care most about revenue. that's our growth, our North Star is revenue, and I talked about some of the clients that we work with. But to get those clients, we need to build network effect. We need a huge user base, and not only just a huge user base, but an active user base of people sharing addresses and using addresses regularly. So it's been challenging over the last 10 years to kind of build this network, and we track metrics like how many people are searched, or how many addresses are being searched for, how often are they being shared, navigated to. We obviously do tap every button pressed within the app and within the website. But the thing that keeps me up at night the most, I suppose, is that we're trying to genuinely enact behavior change in people. Traditional street addresses have been around for hundreds of years. And people have been telling stories for thousands of years to try and help people locate places, right? Turn left at the lamppost, right by the pink sign, stuff like that. So, and these are behaviors that we all default to when we need them, when we struggle to find someone, whether it be on the phone or whatever. So what keeps me up at night is making sure that our users remember to use what 3 words, or that they're aware that they're in a what 3 words moment, and that there's a tool for this, which will help you find where it is that you're trying to get to much quicker and more accurately.
Wow, I love that. I think redefining growth around real impact and not just on numbers, I think that's like bang on. I would also say, basically, wasn't that like a master class on precision growth? Guys, where's the whiteboard? We can definitely have like Greg, jot down some bits and bobs for us. So that's great. I think from mapping the world in threes to navigating complex growth paths, thank you. That kind of really sets, the tone. Has the shift for you from installs to meaningful engagement looked any different when you compare it to traditional non-app-based models?
Yeah, a little bit. So we are web and app-based, although we are very much app-first, and we try and encourage as many of our users as possible to have the app and use the app, not least because, it works a bit better, but obviously it's advantageous for us because we can communicate with our users a lot more easily via the app, and we can get a lot more information on them. But we are web-based, so if I wanted to meet you, for example, at a 3-word location and you don't have the app, I would, regardless of whether or not you have the app, I would send you a link. You would click it. If you didn't have the app, you would go to our site, you would open our site, and you would be able to do everything that you can within the app and find the location. But we do a lot of prompting there to push people through to the app. So we still care a lot about installs. It's just the shape of where we acquire our users has changed a lot. Admittedly, in 2020, a lot of that was from paid. In 2025, now that we are a lot further along our journey to kind of achieve that network effect and that huge user base that we're trying to get to, we're not leaning much more, we're just able to utilize a lot more our organic acquisition methods, which is basically the sharing of addresses. We're very lucky that we've got this native tool that is literally our growth driver now, and we don't have to force users to do it. It's basically what the app is for, sharing and using addresses. So most of our new users now are coming in organically via the sharing of addresses. Yeah. They go to the site, typically, if they're new users, but we work with our tech partners to direct people from the web to the app very seamlessly. And web to app as an acquisition tool is one of our largest drivers of installs now.
Great. I mean, I love how you tied engagement back to utility. So it's not just plain screen time. It's actual real life, and I think that's what we would say is growth with purpose.
Sure, and I think for us as well, because we don't have those revenue metrics tied so closely to individual users, we have had to lean much more heavily on brand building as well to get that network effect. So we probably do a lot more traditional advertising than many apps do, TV, out of home, press, radio. The way that we've managed to do that without having to spend lots of cash is through media for equity deals. So a lot of our biggest investors are actually media companies, people like ITV, Channel 4, ProSieben in Germany, and Times of India in India. So instead of us spending our own cash, we get investment from these companies and they give us media credits to help build our brand globally.
Wow, that's a refreshing take. I think especially in a world where we're still obsessed with App Store,
Yeah.
Those charts, I think it's a great reminder again for us that growth can and should look different. So I think that's a super, super strong start for us.
For sure, and we obviously direct users to the App Store in those ads, but we know that that's not what most users will do when they're faced with a TV ad. Historically, they will go to Google or maybe ChatGPT now, who knows. And so, yeah, having that site and then having a very clear flow through to the app is working really well for us.
No, I love that. If I could say, I think Greg helps us understand that installs definitely got us through the door.
Oh, yeah.
But it's engagement that earns us a seat at the table.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone wants to install our app, we're very happy. And we've had over 50 million downloads. But we are way more focused on retention now. But I think our retention metrics probably look a lot different to some other people's. Like, I don't mind if you don't come back necessarily within the first whatever, but we have ridiculously good retention rates actually between year one and months 12 and months 24. So we know that we're extremely sticky over long periods of time, even if it takes, and that's because of that behavior change that we're trying to do. It takes time for what 3 words. But if someone wants to come back a year after not seeing us, that's totally fine. Obviously, it's better if they come back more, but if they come back at all, that's great.
Love that. Thank you, Greg. Let's keep it moving. Amazing. We'll go on to our next panelist, Giulia. She's the head of performance marketing growth at Tide. And so she's a pro at building smart, scalable systems for one of UK's fastest growing fintechs, right? I'm sure when I give her a chance, she will give us a little peek into what Tide is all about. But before we get into the fintech funnels and the growth metrics, what got tapped first on your phone this morning? And be honest, if it was Slack, I'm going to send help.
It wasn't Slack, no. I wanted it to be payday today. If it was payday, it would have been Tide. But no, not Tide. I'd say like my calendar, yeah. A bit of a control freak. Need to see what's coming up.
Right, okay. You want to give a little introduction about
Sure.
Tide?
Yeah. So yeah, Tide is a business bank account founded and run here in the UK, but we currently operate in India and now in Germany as well. We're basically a kind of one-stop shop with all of the financial services and features you would need to run your small business, catered towards everything from freelancers to small teams, and we really kind of built this account that has most of the services that you need to operate without a financial kind of function. And yeah, empowering kind of the small business owners to spend less time doing that financial admin that everybody hates, the accounting, all of that part, and more really growing their business.
Yeah, that's definitely me. That's definitely me. I think it's also quite big in India, so.
Really big in India.
Yeah, so that's brilliant. Amazing. I love that there's such diversity over here, like, from different verticals and just people from all over. It's beautiful. Growth in every aspect. Giulia, the first question for you. When you describe fintech, trust and retention are everything. What's that one strategy that Tide has doubled down on recently that reflects that shift from acquisition to value-driven growth?
Yeah. So I think for fintech, for any type of financial service, the balance between kind of growth and value needs to be there, right? Installs, as we're talking about, and just acquisition through the door, and no engagement means nothing for us. So what that has changed is we started to look at the relationship between CAC, LTV, and our payback. That payback is like our number one metric that we're always measuring. And the way we kind of, through time, right? It's obviously not a metric that changes month on month, but through time we've been able to implement some strategies that really supported decreasing our payback across digital and offline, is what we do a lot of offline. And I'd say not a specific channel strategy, but kind of an overarching plan we had was a lot of shifts in our positioning, just like how we position our product, how we talk about it, the messaging across the different channels we're in has been very critical. So we went from like a simple bank account to what now we want to call is kind of, you can run all of your business in one app. So we then can talk about all of the different features we have. We bring in the user to Tide then already educated with the services we offer. That means that they use more. They tend to go from using one feature to maybe using 3. We monetize them better that way, and then that decreases our payback, right? So kind of tested that, and obviously through a ton of messaging tests across the board, got to like a satisfactory place where you're never there, right? You're eternally testing. And then kind of building in the data aspect as well. Like we look at early life behaviors, day one kind of engagement, maybe, 30-day revenue. And then we feed that back into our targeting and our segmentation so that you can also keep learning from that.
So interesting. How do you, in that, since you've mentioned, the payback period and the cost efficiency, how do you perhaps balance the payback expectations with long-term value, especially when you're planning your performance strategy?
Yeah, so because we're looking at a longer payback, you have a bit of more freedom and space, right? You're not only worried about what's going to happen. What's your CPA, right? You're worried about what's going to happen in the first month and the third month, and every business will have their own timelines and metrics to measure. So being able to look at that and then use early behavior in the app to gauge what that will be, right? So we have a few, maybe 5 or 10 events that we know if a person is triggering in their early life, that means that their payback is going to be positive, right? And then you can tailor that based on the behavior you're after. But it just takes you away from that cost per install needs to be £7 or whatever, because you're looking at something a little bit more, deep.
And do you perhaps balance that with shorter KPIs?
Yeah, obviously, always looking at that as well. But I can accept a more expensive CPI or CPA, right, or a shorter term KPI if I know that my payback is actually going to be better.
I love that. I think it sounds like the shift required across teams, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So which means that, did that change how you work with perhaps product or data teams internally?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely product. I'd say at Tide Growth, we divide ourselves into a kind of a marketing team that has product inside our marketing. So our onboarding journey is a product piece, but it's owned inside of the marketing function. So is growth, so is performance marketing. So we all work towards the same kind of KPIs. And definitely, right, the impact of a product change is always much.
No, brilliant. I think it's a super strong example of how we see real growth at depth, which is not just reach.
Yeah.
In the sense proving again that fintech especially, trust isn't just earned once, but you build it over time.
Yeah.
Right? Cool, amazing. The other question in a similar fashion, I wanted to kind of pick your brains was, what role does experimentation play for you? Whether to scale out or cut a channel?
Yeah.
Perhaps if you could walk us through a little timeline.
Sure. So I think experimentation obviously will be in everything, hopefully in everything you do. To cut, to scale, to change, right? I mentioned the positioning piece is obviously also an experimentation piece. I like to see it, I don't like to cut channels. I like to see it more as how can you experiment also in different angles with a channel? So maybe an example, we obviously run a lot of paid social. Last year, we started to build a kind of influencer ambassador program at Tide. And then this all became kind of a portfolio of channels, I call it that, I was able to scale because I looked for some niche creators. They have a, let's say, really engaged small business community. They're talking directly to, I don't know, people trying to start their agency or something. We bring them in as active Tide users. We want them to be a Tide user. They'll be able to talk much more authentically about the product. We then take what's working, we amplify it on paid social. And then we also bring that into kind of now, which I'm super interested in, is real life events. So we'll host events with these creators, we'll host maybe panels or workshops with these ambassadors. And then those three things together actually works better than just one of them in tandem, right? And then if you experiment within that combination and how you're orchestrating those things, you can actually scale and just invest a lot more on them together, rather than if you were just also trying to experiment in silos.
That's very interesting. So then how do you know when to stop? Especially when it's performing just okay.
just okay, then you try again. You try a different way. Yeah, that's the thing. We don't stop, right?
Never.
No, I think that's again like a good reminder. That's why I kind of had that question for you, because I think growth is not static. Like it's like a constant iteration.
Exactly.
And so like you test, learn, you scale, you test, learn, and scale.
I think like obviously you win if you can test faster, no doubt. But it's hard, right? I'm not saying we cracked it, definitely not. It takes time. So the faster you can do it, the faster you can learn, and then if it's working just okay, you tailor something else and you introduce something else, and the better it gets, hopefully. Yeah.
I think on this note, I really wanted to say was like, if I probably had £1 for every time someone told me installs is growth, I could retire and finally start the dog spa business in Ibiza.
And then you'll bank with Tide.
I think, but seriously, I think that's where growth has evolved, hasn't it? And I think we're digging into what actually drives it today. So thank you for those brilliance that you share with us. Over to our wonderful Diane. She's the head of paid content and social at Blinkist. So she shapes the narrative and growth there, where content is product and engagement has to be earned every single day. So Diane, again, before we dive in, and Blinkist earns the attention as in a swipe-happy world, let's start with a quick reality check. What was the first app that you opened this morning?
Well, Nidhi, I would never lie to you. First thing I thought about was you, because I was unsure what time I was going to be here. So the first app I opened today was Google Gmail.
That gives me a lot of joy.
But generally, if I'm not going to a place that I'm not sure where it's located, I do have like I don't have very many push notifications, but I do have push notifications from, it's called Ground News, and it's an aggregator for several different news sources. It just shows you some of the top news information from all over the world. So that's mostly I see that and I have a vague idea of what's going on.
Okay, we have a productivity queen, right? We love that.
Productivity, efficiency, yeah.
Great. So Diane, Blinkist users aren't just clicking. They are committing time and attention. So how do paid and content social strategies evolve when retention is the ultimate KPI?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good question. Like, how does it evolve? And I would say that's very different we have very different industries that we are all sitting up here. But I think the same thing for all of us would be that we all have our unique USPs that we're working towards, and how are we going to use whatever is trending right now or what seasonality we have for our different industries, like how do we use that? And I guess for evolution, I might talk a bit more about my own personal evolution, because before working at Blinkist, I worked at Babbel, which is a language learning app. And I would say that when I moved between the two, I was like, this is gonna be so easy. Education again, different boss, same thing. But I think what I realized is not the same thing. People generally just search for a language learning app and that's it. But for Blinkist, if you don't know Blinkist, basically what we do is we're an app for key insights for books or podcasts or just general for experts, and you can listen to it in 15 minutes or read about it. So we do a bit of a summary. That is not what people are generally searching for immediately, other than like a book summary app. So I think a difference that I kind of realized changing between the companies was that we really, at Blinkist, originally when I started, we have a lot of books on like education or also on business and growth. And that's where we had really pivoted ourselves. But the reality is we have 28 different categories that people can learn about. And I think how we've pivoted, or how we advertise a lot more right now, is that some of our ads, like for example, AI is a topic that we're talking about a lot. We have, what are the AI like experts reading? And that is a huge one, like Sam Altman. He's the CEO of ChatGPT. What does he read? And we have it from that range all the way over to dating and how to flirt like a pro, or how to be happy being single. So I'd say for us, we have such a wide variety of what we can do. And like to come back to what you said about retention, I'd say that's how we like wedge ourselves in, is bringing somebody in for one thing that they're like hooked with. And then once they're there, I think we all feel like we're not like a one type dimension person. So once you're inside, you're able to see all the other categories that we have, and you stick around for that. Yeah, I was talking with my brother just the other week, and he's a dad who works in like medical industry, and he was texting me that I was using Blinkist for Greek mythology, and there's so much on it. I was like, I had no idea. I didn't realize we had so many books on that. So I think that that's reality. You have so many different aspects to you, so that's the biggest thing that we use.
No, I think that really landed because, again, it's a great reminder that retention starts long before someone's even in the funnel, especially with that example of your brother.
Yeah.
And I think that's why content is not just part of the journey, it is the journey, right? Like with how we kind of shape that pipe alongside. I think we've all kind of felt what Diane is trying to describe is that content that actually earns our time is where growth gets sticky, and that's like the best way to kind of grab that, you know, at the time. What do you feel about retention as a creative metric?
Ooh. I mean, I think for us, I think when you say retention as a creative metric, I think we always are trying.
I think Blinkist should publish that.
We'll quote you on it. No, I think what we try to do is we always try to we try to test whatever we think will work. And I think we want to make, whenever we find something that does work, we are trying to always use it in our onboarding funnel. So that's how for retention, we brought them in with this and we keep showing them the same thing. So I think we can't generally, what you think will work with marketing and creativity, most of the time it isn't what works, unfortunately. So I think it's with testing a whole lot and then just taking whatever people get hooked on and just going with it. I think that's and then I think the retention comes from that.
Yeah, fair enough. I think love how you tied content directly to long-term impact. And so when KPI is attention, you can't afford to kind of blend in, right?
Yeah, so sometimes your creative team comes to you and say that this is a brilliant creative and it's going to definitely work. And you put it in the campaign and you see that, no. No. And you see that, okay, this is not real. This is a very direct message. It's only text on the banner and it's not going to work. And you see that, oh my God, this is the raws. And it's very weird. I totally feel.
The most beautiful things never work.
Never work.
No, that's a very sharp perspective. Thank you for that. I think as much as what I hear is that as much as content can be the first touch point, it's that glue that keeps people wanting to come back to us, right? So attention is earned and not bought. And that's where retention can become a creative strategy.
Yep.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
Amazing. Thank you, Yagiz, for that input there.
Anytime.
So that's really good. The next piece around the same lines that we've been talking about it is that are there any successful strategies that you're bringing in from last year? Like, for instance, any insights into how you approach testing?
You know, funny enough, like a year ago, I was at this conference and we started doing, my boss is gonna love this, we started doing daily stand-ups on a regular basis. Yes. And one of the ones that we do for coming to creative, what you're saying, every Tuesday we have a creative sharing in the morning. And to be honest, like as a strategy, I think that that's super helpful because I would describe us as T-shaped marketers. So we're experts in what we do in our specific channels, and we're kind of generalists in all the other channels, which is good and bad because you then get so focused in on your own thing and you kind of forget what's working well for other people, right? So when we have our creative sharing every Tuesday, we come prepared for it. We're not just sharing, we're sharing this stuff back with the creative people.
Yeah.
And we're getting them also educated on what the KPIs are that we care about. And on top of that, not only sharing with them and giving them an idea of what actually works and doesn't work, but also with our other channel managers so we can have more of an overview of what's working for everybody and pivot and take it on as quick as possible. So I guess it makes us like way more reactive. So I say our strategy has been just doing regular sharing. I think before we were doing way more async and then nobody really read it. like you wrote out this massive long thing and nobody really read it at all. But now we're coming prepared with a meeting. We actually have slides for everybody to look at, and we present it to each other. And I think that that's actually been what's most helpful for us.
That's a smart approach. I think creativity backed by structure and not just guesswork. No wonder you guys make it look so easy on Blinkist. I'm a big fan of Blinkist. I really like it. Do you perhaps also test for engagement upfront?
Do that again?
Do you also like test for engagement upfront?
Yeah, definitely.
Or
yeah.
Or you trust the long game? Or it's a mix of both.
I'd say for us, what we do for the most part is we'll test a lot on meta.
I mean, like, do you look at retention after the fact?
Yep, that's true. But we test, basically we'll take whatever creatives or concepts we have that are working and we're always iterating on them. So, and I think it's about balancing how much iterating you're doing on past concepts. And like I said, if we have 27 categories, we can adjust it to very different concepts, like parenting or history or science or things like that. So for us, we have the opportunity to do a lot of iteration. And so it's, I'd say, trying to balance it between iteration and brand new concept.
Fab. I think from content that keeps people coming back to games. That gets them in fast. So thank you for that wonderful, background of how, content kind of plays such a big scene. Really love that. So Yagiz, your world moves at lightning speed, and we like to shift gears to the gaming world. And I also understand the stakes are always like super, super high. So let's talk about what a sustainable UA really looks like, in 2025. And just so you all know, Yagiz leads the UA in the ultra competitive gaming space where skill, speed, and creative differentiation are everything. Again, my favorite question of the day, quick fire. What was the first tab that you opened this morning?
I am terrible about navigation and City Mapper. Whenever I'm going out of house, I always use City Mapper and sometimes Google Maps accordingly. But it's just, probably most of you have already used City Mapper while coming here because if you're not really familiar around here, the brewery is in the pocket of somewhere, so we might get lost. And I got lost once, even though I was using.
Okay, so you're winning the game in originality this morning, Yagiz, for sure. Okay, lovely. So again, with how fast-paced your world is and the rising CPIs and privacy shifts, how are you reinventing your UA strategy to focus on players that stay and not just install and ghost us?
Yeah, so it's a very brilliant question. So one thing is to note down before I answer. So social casino has lots of limitations. So we start actually a step behind when we compare it to the other verticals in gaming. So sometimes you cannot do some certain advertising in certain regions, or you cannot use some certain wordings, or you need to use lots of disclaimers, whatsoever. So this shows like there is a crisis for us, but every crisis comes with its own opportunity. So I can say three things are very important. One of them is attribution. So we're using whenever I do some kind of presentation to my bosses, and when I demand more money, so I say that, okay, I'm going to give you a different kind of story. That story is going to include profitability and scalability. And while I'm going for profitability, I'm not going to tell you that scalability is going down, but don't worry. I'm going to find you the sweet spot. So in order to do that, I need to use all these beautiful technologies of the ad networks that are offering to us. So TROS campaigns, VO campaigns, all of us are using over here. But we're not only using them to maximize the value. Everybody wants their users to pay in their apps or subscribe to it. But we're also looking forward to getting some users that actually stays in the game. So attribution is one of the things. So we're using both TCPA campaigns or in meta terminology, value optimization campaigns, and the AEO campaigns, app event optimization campaigns. And the second thing that I might say that it's a data world, right? It's just we're working with data teams very, very, I don't know, I mean, every day, I think it's just, I mean, probably the second app I would be looking for is Slack. And it's like, you know, it's like a COVID list coming from lots of messages from data team. Everyone is just like asking this, asking that, or I'm asking something. So there are lots of projects that we are trying to understand how our installs are actually getting more profitable for us. Because every install is actually coming, it's representing an audience. That audience needs to be a kind of segmented under certain things. So data teams know the best because they have the big data. So we are talking with data science team to understand how we can actually understand the data to deploy some insights coming out of this big data to our campaigns. And the third thing is creatives. So let's admit that not all of us like seeing ads over here, right? Can I see the hands of people who use YouTube Premium over here? Yeah, so there are lots of, I also use that. So seeing ads is not something that is pleasant all the time. So you need to reach out the right audience in the right time with the right content. So in order to do that, creatives are not only things that we are using in the campaigns to reach out to people, but it's a much more meaningful mediums for us. So especially when we think of that we are in the social casino business, it's limited all the time with most of things that I just mentioned. So creatives, we're trying everything, and we are doing our best to use every frequency, every dimension, every size, by using the best practices coming from all those ad networks to manipulate these questions, the issue. We need to take everything into a conclusion, everything into equation, and come up with a conclusion that satisfies the most, but not really hurting the main KPIs.
Okay, so like that's an interesting take. So would you say when you adjust your creatives to connect with those high-level value players, is it like early on in the funnel for you?
Sorry?
Is it early in the funnel for you?
Yes. So, I mean, when we are defining the funnel is a kind of different thing for us. So it goes to the KPI, right? So everybody wants to be more profitable. Everybody wants more retention. I'm talking like a product person right now here, but it's more like we want all our KPI metrics to be better than yesterday, better than the compared period and everything, right? In growth team, we encourage our UI managers, and we also do that, to come up with some kind of argument schema. So what is argument schema? That's what we are using. So whenever we test something new, or whenever we do something new, or whenever we want to do some kind of change a little bit different from the BAU, we come up with some certain schema that we call argument schema. It's saying that what we are going to test, what we are going to try, how long we are going to try, what kind of optimizations should we expect on the road, and the most important thing, what is the success and failure criteria. When we put this in the and it's somewhere on a blank page, and when you see that those answers are actually chaining up with each other, you're actually saying that our main KPI might be day 7 ROAS. But with this test, I'm actually looking at improving the CPI in the first place and then moving to that part.
So are there certain behavioral signals that intent of who are going to be like sticking around?
Exactly. So segmentation is not only going for the audiences, but also going for the ad tech and using the campaigns in a different manner so that we can
spot them early.
Exactly.
Okay.
Definitely.
Okay, that's brilliant. I think that's super interesting to look at needing to pull back on volume just to protect also, like, I would say, long-term ROI, right?
Exactly.
So that's brilliant. Very, very sharp take. When performance marketing becomes sustainable, that's where you're not just growing fast, I think you're growing well, Is this what I kind of, hear from what you've been kind of describing? So in these economic times, making the most of the marketing budget, and I'm sure all of us have this as a pain point, in this crucial economic times as well. How are you optimizing the bottom of the funnel for yourself to kind of increase that ROI effectively?
So it's been 10 years since I've started working in the industry. And I work for not only social casino, but also the other verticals as well. And I can say that cutting a kind of channel or a segment is not what I'm doing the most. Because we're trying every way before we do that. So we're working with SRNs, DSPs, video ad networks, CP networks, RTG networks, and everything, right? And in order to cut a channel or a segment, we need to try everything, as I said. So in order to do that, we are still using the argument schema, but we're also testing everything over there. So testing, getting insights, and reallocating the budget. So the main thing is that not really cutting something and putting that money in another bucket, but actually trying to find a different balance in between to be more profitable and more scalable over there. Because as I said, when I say profitable, I'm not only talking about gaining more money, I'm taking cost also into equation. When I say scalability, I'm not talking about that we can spend lots of money over here, but also these installs need to be they shouldn't be really churning the other day. So it's just, these are two things that are very important. Rather than cutting, since I've started working for Product Madness, I think there was only one partner or two partners we stopped working from the always on budget. So we generally try every way, every feature and everything before we do that. And reallocation is what everyone is doing, but these arguments are actually projects for us. They're actually representing some certain features, some certain upgrades in the ad network side or on the product side as well. So this is how we're actually dealing with in the social casino business.
Really insightful. I think especially in a market where penny has to punch above its weight, I think it's helpful to get those bits and pieces. I think I would love to have a Q&A, but I think we got so passionate about our conversations that I will have to wrap up now. This has been going really well. So I think, like I was saying, I think back in the day when installs were the currency of growth, but as we've all had this beautiful chat, I think growth has evolved. It's less about downloads and more about direction, about retention, lifetime value, and just building experiences that kind of stick around. So if something has sparked your curiosity today, audience, whether it was Greg's precision or Giulia's strategy or Diane's content playbook or Yagi's gaming edge, find us after. We've got stories and probably one or two things that we're still figuring out. And go ahead, steal the best ideas that you've had, and if it works, you owe us a coffee. Is that a deal? So yes, thank you very much. It was really a brilliant panel. Thank you very much, and a wonderful audience. Appreciate it.